Indiana football is back. Welcome back to the channel. Indiana at the voice of college football. If you notice, obviously, just me on the screen. Like we talked about Tuesday night live. We're gonna do kind of something different during the football season. We'll do two live shows Tuesday night. We'll be live again tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. But in terms of an instant reaction after the game, you'll get me. So here it is. I want to get into a couple of different things around the college football world, or specifically one thing around the college football world before we kind of jump into an instant reaction from this 27-14 victory over Old Dominion. We don't apologize for wins. Was it pretty? No. I'll get into a little bit of that in a second. But I just want to touch on the Lee Corso tributes that were started today. Obviously, Lee Corso's final game day. I thought the simulcast between Fox and ESPN was really cool. That's something you really don't see from those two companies. They rarely ever work together, obviously, direct competitors. So to see the teamwork, to see both of those networks kind of putting Lee Corso on that kind of pedestal and giving him the recognition he deserves, I thought that was beautiful. I thought ESPN did a really nice job. They typically do a really good job when it comes to these kind of things, tributes, and making somebody feel the love that they deserve. So shout out to ESPN for that. But I think that Indiana football's tribute, the 8 minute or so video they released with guys who played for Coach Corso in the 70s and early 80s, that video was incredible. I was definitely crying watching that. So shout out to the team for putting that together. I thought that was beautiful. And the observation or kind of my takeaway from that was it would obviously be really cool if Indiana was the place where Coach Corso's last game day was. Obviously, I'm aware that Indiana right now isn't in a place as a program to warrant something of that magnitude. Now, 3, 4, 5 years down the road, Curt Cignetti has this program humming. Maybe that's something that could have happened, but obviously in today's reality, having it at a place like Ohio State for a game as big as that one versus three, I thought that was a really cool moment. So shout out to Coach Corso. Thank you, Coach, for everything you've done for the game of college football, and we appreciate you very much. Let's get into this Indiana game. Well, real quick, the other thing that happened pregame, the crowd I thought was awesome. It wasn't exactly a sellout. But the students overflowed the student section like 30 minutes before the game. I was seeing pictures. Shout out respectable Adam throwing them up on Twitter of the stadium filling up early, and there was just people there and people around, and the buzz around Bloomington was palpable, even from sitting at the top of a camper and the lots in Darlington, and I could feel the energy, and it was just having Indiana football back was incredible. And then Hoosier the Bison coming in from the sky. Are you kidding me? What other school is doing this? You want to talk about an epic mascot reveal? They dropped the mascot in from a plane. He parachuted into the stadium. That was absolutely incredible. Shout out to Jeremy Gray. Shout out to everybody in the athletic department who was responsible for coming up with that one. Thank God everybody was unhurt and safe and riding around the motorcycle and all that. I'm gonna be honest. I like the Bison mascot. I think he looks great. I'm happy he's back. I thought that was a really cool moment, and the fact that you're able to flex as a university like that and provide a stunt like that, absolutely incredible stuff. Absolutely incredible stuff. Um, but yeah, let's talk about this game real quick. Definitely not the game we were expecting. I think if you turn all the mistakes Indiana made into like executed plays, then we probably could have gotten close to the scores Brad and I were predicting. We were thinking this team was going to get into the 50s, and the long play to Omar Cooper comes to mind. The red zone troubles come to mind. It really could have been another 21 points on the scoreboard for the Hoosiers. So they definitely left a lot of juice on the table, but they ran for 300 yards combined. Hemby ran for over 100. BB was close, or Black was close. Sorry, BB was ran for a bunch of yards as well. Mendoza was mobile as well. And so, was it perfect? No. Do we apologize for wins? Absolutely not. There was a bunch of keys. I think there was 5 or 6 keys to the game I had coming into it. So I'll just kind of address those, and then we'll get out of here and we'll get ready for tomorrow's live show. We'll really dive into the nitty gritty of it. But the first key to this game was to control the line of scrimmage and take away the two really big rushing plays from ODU, which, like, I know it's easy to say that, but I mean, like I said, Indiana ran for over 300 yards. We saw all three running backs. That was something Curt Cignetti said we were going to see. It was talked about last year. It was really just Ellison and Lawton. We saw all three running backs. They rotated in. BB, we probably would have seen a little bit more if he didn't fumble early. But outside the fumble, I thought the backs ran the ball really well. Hemby is something special, man. That dude is really, really good at football. It was really exciting to watch him run behind this Indiana offensive line. That was incredible. And like BB's really hard to bring down. And then just watching Kalon Black run wild, be out on the field, contribute, make an impact, knowing the impact that dude makes inside the locker room and knowing that he wasn't 100% last year and wasn't able to contribute to a really fun year. It was really cool seeing him get out there and gallop around. He looked great as well. And then I thought defensively, like I said, they had the big run early, obviously the first play of the game, and they had the other really long 75-yard touchdown. But outside of those two, I think they had less total yards than those two combined the entire game. So it wasn't exactly a sparkling performance by the defense because of those two major plays. Those are going to be an issue. Something Taylor from Bite Size Bison has been pointing out for a couple weeks now. Indiana plays, I think, 6 or 7 more mobile quarterbacks on their schedule. People are going to dial up quarterback run against this Indiana defense. Like, it's something now for this is going on 2 years that we've seen they struggled with a little bit. I joked that I was getting Jack Lausch flashbacks watching Colton Joseph run around, but I mean that dude's a really talented player. Brad highlighted his ability to be a dual threat, and yeah, he was running all over the place with those two plays specifically. But outside of that, the defense was suffocating. I thought D'Angelo Pons looked incredible. He had a pick. Amari Farrell had a pick. He looked great. I thought Bones Jones coming in as that third linebacker, kind of like swing starter esque player, was really good. And I thought for the most part, they really did dominate the line of scrimmage. Now we'll get into some of the red zone issues and stuff. I'll jump into that with Brad tomorrow. I'm interested to hear Curt Cignetti's press conference. Obviously, so close to it's 6:30 right now. I haven't been able to listen to any of the pregame comments, but I'd be interested to hear what the rationale behind why they ran the ball so many times in the red zone when you can get Mendoza out and about. But I really did think for the most part they dominated the line of scrimmage. They did what they needed to do, and it's hard to it, we come out of this game almost feeling like Indiana didn't impose their will physically, and there was a couple plays like when Mendoza got hit out of bounds and number 9 hit him late, and there was kind of like no fire back from the Indiana team. Now maybe that was coached in, but that was something that was kind of like maybe this can kind of flip the complexion of this game. Luckily it didn't, but I thought for the most part they really controlled the line of scrimmage, and yeah, like I said, it feels weird saying they didn't impose their will physically in a game where they ran for 300 yards, but it just felt like they left a lot of meat on the table, which is true. The next key to the game was obviously Fernando Mendoza's uh, his ability to execute the offense. I thought he was good, not great in parts. I thought there were flashes where you could see it. His quick release, his ability to put the ball on target, obviously the deep throw to Omar Cooper he put in the breadbasket. I don't think he could have walked it out there and handed it to him in a better spot. We saw the mobility last year. Indiana moved the quarterback off the spot 0.25% of the time. Mendoza ran the ball, designed runs 6 times, I think, 5 times, ran for a touchdown, was putting his shoulder down. We saw the mobility. That was really exciting. It felt like we could have opened up the playbook a little more. He missed LeBron Bond on a deep throw. There was deep routes open, kind of felt like all game. We didn't get a ton of Elijah Surratt, but there was a lot of EJ Williams, which I thought was awesome. He looked phenomenal. That was kind of the matchup they were targeting. He had a size mismatch, and he was open all day. So makes a lot of sense. A lot of Nowakowski, too. And when Mendoza was making quick decisions, working within the flow of the offense, he looked really good. But there was just, you could see uh, part of those times where like he does hold the ball a little bit too long. Like he does like try and look for the big play maybe a little bit too much. Like you can see like obviously he was hit a lot and it was a bad offensive line for Cal, but there were some of those things where Curt Cignetti was talking about where there are things he needs to work on. Those are some of the things he needs to work on, just being a little bit crisper in his decision making process. But you go back and look at Curtis Rourke's line from game 1 last year. I think Bite Size Bison also posted that one, but I think it was like Rourke threw for 180 yards and a touchdown. Mendoza threw for like 150 yards and added 30 on the ground and a touchdown. So the production was pretty much similar. It wasn't like, oh my God, like this is exactly what we were looking for, but I thought Mendoza played a fine game. If you're evaluating him in terms of like NFL prospects, this doesn't knock him down by any means. In fact, I think there was a lot to like from this start. You could tell he didn't have like his fastball in terms of being crisp and on time, and they were still able to dominate the game. And so positive first start for Mendoza. Was it perfect? Absolutely not. Do we see a lot of the things that make us excited for what he can do in the Shanahan offense? Absolutely. And was the play calling 100% where it needed to be? Probably not. Are they running Mendoza into the line on the goal line on the first game of the year when it's going to be a long season? You need the guy standing upright? No, probably not. So, but yeah, thumbs up for Mendoza. I thought he looked great. It was nice. Like it's just comforting having an adult playing quarterback. And not that I think that Julian Sane or Arch Manning like are going to be bad quarterbacks. It's funny, the narrative coming out of that game is going to be like these guys struggled, but in reality, like they're just young quarterbacks figuring out the position, seeing a lot of these defensive things for the first time. And like that's part of the growing pains of starting a young talented kid and having the ability to turn to an adult. And Fernando Mendoza, it helps me sleep better at night. Talked about the defensive line rotation. Was interested to see how deep they would go. I'm very interested to see the official snap counts later and kind of get into that tomorrow morning. But the defensive line rotation was tight. We saw Kamara, Daly, and Wyatt on the outside. Really, I'm not even sure if we saw anybody else. There was a kind of an interesting point where Wyatt and Daly were the ends and Kamara was off the field, which I thought was cool, just because it gave Kamara a chance to rest. And that's not something we saw a lot from him last year. So the ability to take him off the field when you don't necessarily need to put a ton of miles on, you have some guys behind him that can produce in those spots. Great for his like staying healthy and being able to have a high motor all season. I thought it was a little interesting they didn't get after the quarterback more, but then you take a look at the fact that they were playing a quarterback who can use his legs really effectively. You saw what happened early when they got up the field aggressively. So I think it was part of the directive this game to cool off on the rush lanes a little bit, hold him in the pocket, and you saw what they were able to do when they forced Joseph to use his arm. It was when he got out of the pocket, was able to make plays with his legs or design run where they were really getting hurt. But I wouldn't be concerned about the pass rush. I think if this is something that we start seeing 2-3 weeks where they're having trouble getting pushed along the defensive line, I'd start to get a little nervous. But I also think we start to see the defensive line rotation expand a little bit when they play lesser competition, and we'll see what they have going into the Illinois game. I also thought it was interesting. The only freshman that played in this game was LeBron Bond. Shout out to LeBron Bond for earning that trust, getting on the field. They dialed up a play for him. He was open. So but it was telling. Byron Baldwin Jr. was ruled out like an hour before the game, maybe. I'm still not even sure why. I'll try and hopefully Cignetti addresses it in his press conference. But as we know, he's usually pretty close to the vest in terms of injury stuff. So I'm not sure we're gonna get a ton of information on what's wrong with Baldwin, unless it is maybe more of a long-term thing. So fingers crossed there. Uh, and then the offensive line starters. We speculated on Tuesday night that it was going to be Khalil Benson getting the right tackle job, just because we saw Zen Mikowski working in at right guard. He was talking about feeling almost awkward or foreign on the right side, given how long he spent on the left side of the line. So when the starters were announced today, it was not that, or announced, sorry, on Thursday night for Curt Cignetti's radio show. It wasn't super surprising to see that it was Smith, Evans, Coogan, Lynch, and Benson. And I thought, like I said, they ran for over 300 yards. The offensive line looked great. They protected Mendoza. He had time to throw. Um, so yeah, and then obviously Jonathan Brady, electric punt return, calmed the crowd down completely, much needed. It's cool to have juice at that position this year. Not that Miles Price wasn't electric, he was, but the fact that this early they have some big playability and the ability to scare some people and punting away from that guy is really exciting. So that was kind of a quick instant reaction from this game. Pumped that Indiana football is back. I'm gonna save my like I want to call it bitching, but I'm going to save my more critical thoughts on the red zone offense and kind of being a little bit sloppier than we would have expected from a Curt Cignetti team for tomorrow morning when Brad and I really get into it. But I'm just going to enjoy this win. Like, this is college football. We don't apologize for wins. We saw last year what ODU did going to South Carolina. I'm actually staying with people who were at that game last year and were laughing and terrified the fact that Indiana was playing ODU this week. So to get out of there with a double-digit victory obviously wasn't the one we wanted. They didn't cover. But it's okay. Like, we don't apologize for wins. The Hoosiers are 1-0. The Curt Cignetti era obviously continues to be off to a strong start, and the Indiana Hoosiers are back. I'll be back tomorrow morning with Brad. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Follow us on socials, Voice of College Football, Indiana at the VOCFB. Please like, comment, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Leave your initial thoughts of the game down below. Join us tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern, right here for the recap of the game. Appreciate you guys for listening. I'll see you tomorrow morning. Go Hoosiers.